So, welcome to this episode of the Chatty Ramble. My lovely guest on this episode is Jocelyn Clark, also known as the Phoenix Mage. Is that right, Joss?
That is correct, yes.
So, Joss and I met, I don't even remember where we met now, but we've been connected ever since.
Yeah, just before the pandemic, I think.
Is it really?
Yeah, about that.
There we go. And Joss, apart from does dragons, also does the Phoenix. Now, the Phoenix hit my radar 4 or so years ago, maybe 5 years ago, pre-pandemic anyway. They hit my radar. And I sort of toyed with them, but didn't do very much with them. And well, they hit your radar completely, haven't they? So go on, tell me about the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got an itchy dog. Sorry, shush.
That's all right. Yeah, it was really weird. So it was funny enough, it was through the dragons, actually, that the dragons introduced me to the Phoenixes. And it was really interesting because when I work with dragons, my special place is an obsidian cave. And I think I've taken you there before, Caroline.
Fabulous.
And it's a beautiful space. You're surrounded by black obsidian, beautiful white sandy floor. And I was just sitting there cross-legged in that space, communing with the dragons, and started to sink through the floor. And I was like, oh, good Lord, what the hell? And just went, okay, I'll go with it. Because let's face it, that's what dragons ask us to do. They're just like, go with it. You're safe. You're happy. Don't worry about it. And I ended up in this beautiful geode, absolutely huge cavernous geode. And it was all different colors, everything. And I was like, oh, all right then, what's this? And they were like, this is the realm of the Phoenixes. And I was like, okay. And that's started the journey, really. So they introduced me to what I've now come to know as the crystalline Phoenixes, which is one of the 3 odysseys that I've met. So an odyssey is a group of Phoenixes. So in the same way as you have dragon clans, you have Phoenix odysseys. And so the crystalline Phoenixes are very much earthbound. They're very much attached to the energy of Gaia, of the natural world. And I just spent time in this beautiful geode, meeting all of these amazing Phoenixes. And it was really interesting for me because I've had, let's face it, who doesn't get jealous over Harry Potter and Dumbledore having the Phoenix, forks. It was just, and I suddenly thought, do you know what? Throughout my life, there has always been Phoenixes in the stories that I've read about but it's always been a single Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. It was really funny because the first message I got from the first Phoenix I met, who is called Rebirth. And Rebirth is the traditional Phoenix that you think of. And he was just like, the thing is, Joss, there's more than one. There's a whole load of us. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Because for something so magical and so transformative, and if that's even a word, but had such a mythical nature to it. It felt weird that it would just be one creature. And I must admit, I've always been a bit skeptical when there's just been one of something. I'm like, especially energy, how can everything be contained within just one animal or entity or concept? And I was like, oh, that makes total sense. He said, the thing is, you have to be ready for us.
Oh, a bit like Dragon then.
Yeah. And this is what I suddenly realized. I was like, oh, so am I ready? And they're like, yes, you've done the work. You've gone through the process that you're now ready to be downloaded, and we're choosing you. And I was like, bring it on. So that's really how I first got introduced to them, actually. And it's been a bit of a whirlwind 2 years since that day. So
I love it. So you're saying about you've gone through this sort of process with the with phoenixes to get to where you are currently.
Yeah.
And obviously, as we know, it's always a learning process. It's always evolving. But the image that I got, and tell me if I'm wrong, or maybe I don't know, this might even be useful, I don't know. But I felt it's almost as if they were taking you through chambers.
Yeah.
Whether that was chambers of the heart or chambers of crystal structures, but I just got chambers.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's a really good way of putting it. And funny enough, that's for me. I've never really experienced this before. Like I've always repressed my spiritual power and my connection to spirit and the universe. You know, it's always been there. And as a child, I was really open and had some very weird but fascinating experiences as a child, but then repressed it during my teenage years because it socially wasn't acceptable to talk about that sort of stuff. Yeah. So for me, it's been one of those amazing sort of journeys myself to opening up to it. So I haven't always understood it, and it's kind of come to me in bits and pieces, but chambers is the perfect way of describing it now. So it now, rather than it being one big kind of space, it has now split off into different chambers, and I now work my way through, and it's kind of that there's almost like this central meeting place that you
visualize that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost that and then you go, right, this is where I get ready. It's almost like an antechamber room type thing. And then you go, right, where am I being called to today? What's happening? Where's it coming from? And yeah, you then enter into a chamber to then work with the specific energy of whichever phoenix is coming through for me, you know. And I mean, sometimes I skip the antechamber completely and I get dragged kicking and screaming into a chamber. And they're like, it's me, it's here, we don't have time, get your bumming gear, you know. But yeah, I think that's a really good way of visualizing it, actually.
So how many, they called it chambers, how many chambers of phoenixes are there? Is it phoenixes or phoenix eye?
Phoenixes. Okay. Yeah, they're very much, we are in terms of pantheons, they are closest to the Greek Atlantean pantheons rather than the Romans. So very much Greek X's rather than E's.
The eyes. Right.
The eyes. There are 32 in total.
Or groups?
No, so 32 phoenixes.
I was going to say, Christ!
Yeah, no. But this is it, when my little brain just went kaboom, when I was like, oh, when you said there was more of us, there are definitely more of you. So there are 3 odysseys.
Yeah.
12 phoenixes per odyssey. So 32 in total. I think that comes to 32-ish. My math is appalling.
No idea. Yeah. I'll trust you on that.
Exactly. Apologies to anybody if I've got it wrong.
Oh, somebody out there will be a mathematician and tell us, no, you can't count, girls.
Look, you know, just as a quick aside, I was once in a job interview and the feedback I got was, we'd love to offer you the job, but your numeracy skills suck. I was like, I'm not going to argue with you. I own it. I embrace it. I'm fine with it. Apologies.
Yes, I had something very similar, actually. I applied for the police last 2021, 22, and sailed through maths.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely. That's like,
Yeah.
it's not me then, is it? Yeah, nah.
I have many strengths. Math is not one of them.
Nah.
This is why I'm a psychologist. I think about people, not numbers.
So now that actually brings me on beautifully, actually, because I was wondering about, because you're a psychologist by profession.
Yes.
So how does a psychologist come to dragons and phoenixes?
It's really been really interesting, actually, and it's something that, again, the journey that I've been on in the last 6 or 7 years has really clarified things for me. Psychology for me was a calling.
Right.
So I first became aware of psychology and the study of psychology and everything else like that when I was 16. My older brother was studying it for A level and then went to study at university. And always being the annoying younger child, and especially a little sister, I was like, oh, what's that all about? And just really loved the idea, because I'm a nosy person. There's nothing I enjoy more than sitting at an airport or a train station, or just drinking a cup of coffee in a town square, watching the world go past and going, oh, I wonder what people's stories are. I've always been that way. So for me, going and studying it to understand it better was just natural for me. It clicked. What I didn't realize at the time was it gave me an acceptable way to then start talking about spirit.
Oh.
And that's where I've now come to. So I've been a psychologist for 20 years. 6 years ago, I had what I like to call my spiritual awakening rather than a mental breakdown. But that's what it was. But it gave me the chance to really sit and evaluate my life. I had a couple of absolutely phenomenal therapists who really helped me to pull it together. And what I realized was psychology is about mind and body and the relationship between those two things. How we think, how we feel, how that influences what we behave, and how we behave, what we do. What the missing piece of the puzzle was, I hadn't then added in the soul and the spirit aspect of it. I dabbled, but I hadn't linked the two together. Meeting the dragons and going through that work and effectively doing shadow work, that's what ultimately my therapy ended up being. I was unpacking my childhood. I was unpacking various traumas that I'd experienced throughout my life, the decisions that I'd made and everything else like that. And actually it felt like a very spiritual cleansing.
Yeah.
And it suddenly became this joint thing of going, actually, this is the true meaning of the word holistic. It's mind, body, heart, soul, spirit. And actually I've got a calling for all of it. I've got a calling to bring it all together.
So I've got 2 questions for you now. One on a psychologist's level and one on a spiritual level. So many of us hit this wall, don't we, where we have this breakdown,
Yeah.
breakthrough, call it what you like.
Yeah. Midlife crisis.
Midlife crisis, yeah. Even at 30.
Yeah.
So do you believe then, with knowing what you now know, that when people hit this crash point, do you believe it's because they've been living out of alignment with their soul's callings? They've been working with the body and the mind, doing the 9 to 5 grind, doing whatever they've been doing. Yeah. It's just their body or their soul screaming at them, actually, you're out of alignment, you're out of, not just out of balance mentally, emotionally, physically, time, that work-life balance, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's your soul screaming to be come into some kind of ease, of joy, of balance, or whatever.
10,000%. You know, it's one of those things where so what really was the biggest light bulb moment for me was coming across this absolutely phenomenal lady called Brené Brown. I know I've talked about her before. She is an amazing social researcher at the University of Houston in Texas. And her whole research was looking at shame, vulnerability. And she coined this term called wholeheartedness. And her journey, it was a very personal journey for her as well. And it's that word, wholehearted, really struck a chord with me. It caused a lot of pain, a lot of fear, a lot of relief, a lot of excitement and joy. It was a gamut of everything. But unpacking it, it was that thing of, unless we can accept every part of us and bring it together in balance or authenticity or wholeheartedness or whatever, at some point we are injuring ourselves, we are wounding ourselves, and it will get infected. And eventually something will happen to tell us we need to heal. You know, we talk about witch wounds. We talk about physical wounds. We talk about feeling tired, anxious, sad, you know, depressed. In every incarnation, physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual, universal, we have a language for it. We just don't put the things together and go, oh, I'm feeling tired, or I'm getting a lot of colds, my body's run down, I have aches, I have pains, or, you know, I have dark spots in my aura, whatever you want to talk about it, they're all interlinked.
Yeah.
You know, and that for me is what really brought it together. It's like, oh yes, I think unless you are very lucky and you are brought up, you live in a society that nurtures every aspect of your being, you are always going to be neglecting something.
Yeah. We're all going to have those wounds, aren't we? We're all going to be wounded.
I think this is why if you talk to anybody, everybody will say, I can recognize I came to a crossroads at some point. I had that crisis of conscience or existential crisis, whatever you want to call it. You know, I think we've all experienced that at one point or another.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's because the universe is screaming at us. You're not nurturing a fundamental part of who you are.
Really interesting, isn't it? Because I've had over the years, I've hit burnout twice, and it's horrible. No, maybe 3 times. The first one was probably the biggest. That's trauma based. And then at different points, I've hit these massive crossroads in my life, and I've had to make a decision. It's really interesting, and then it's really interesting how we respond or react to those massive crossroads.
This is it.
Opportunities or whatever. So that's really got me thinking. That's lots of food for thought. Now my next question, and I've tussled with this probably for all of my spiritual working life. Soul, spirit. And I cannot decide if they are 2 separate things or one of the same thing. Our soul and our spirit. What's your take on it? Because I can't. I'm my jury's out, and I can't find the right answer.
Do you know what? I don't know either. If I'm going to be, do you know what? It changes on a daily basis. Weirdly, so yesterday, whilst I was doing my Imulk celebration, and I was calling to the spirits, and I was drawing the energy in, I weirdly separated out soul and spirit. Now, I was channeling. It wasn't a conscious thing. I was channeling. The energy was just flowing through me. I was just going with the flow, and it separated out. There are other times when it feels exactly the same thing. Now, I wonder if sometimes it feels separate because I need to look at the same thing through two different lenses. And sometimes I think it's an indication to me if I'm out of balance.
That's a good point. Because go on.
No, because and like I said, I genuinely don't. I'm still finding my way. I'm still confused. I'm still going WT ... Hello. But again, I also wonder whether the soul is the gateway to spirit.
Yeah. I wonder if any of our listeners have got any ideas, because I'd love to know people's thoughts on that.
So would I. I would really love to have a chin wag, cup of coffee in a group, having a good old, round of fire.
Yeah.
Having a philosophical debate about it.
But is there a definitive answer, do you think?
I don't think there has to be.
No.
The one thing that I have really, and again, this was where I was genuinely killing myself laughing after, as part of the ceremony I was doing last night, because I noticed it and I went, oh, that's interesting. That's been coming up more and more, that I'm thinking of it in two different ways. What's that all about? And one of the crystalline phoenixes, acceptance. So acceptance, funny enough, is all about accepting yourself, just letting it be, sitting in your power. And he came in and he just sat right on top of my heart chakra. And so his symbol is an ankh. So symbol ankh. So I had the circle just on my chest, and then it came down my solar plexus. And he just said to me, it is what it needs to be in this moment.
Okay.
And I'm still wrangling with it. 12 hours later, I'm like, I still don't understand what the hell that means. Whatever. But I don't think there needs to be a different. It's what it means to you. If you want to call soul and spirit the same thing, do that. Because I think that for me is the beauty of the unique experience. We are all part of a collective, and we can be there for each other, and we should be there for each other. We need to connect. We can't do it alone. We're not hardwired, literally, even down to the atomic level. Human beings are built for connection. So we have to connect. But that doesn't mean that we then have to give up our individuality at the same time. We can be both one, as in one person, when we can be one, as in the big one.
Yeah, the source one. Yeah, the source one. Interesting, isn't it? And there's just so much. Yeah. Because we think of like our spirit guides. We think of dragons or phoenixes as energetic beings, so they're spiritual beings. But are they actually soul beings?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, I know you and I have talked about this before. So for me, phoenixes are very heart-centered,
Yeah, as our dragons.
as are dragons.
Mm-hmm.
But when I then think about going back to this term wholehearted,
Yeah.
what does that actually mean? And it goes, it's not just about the heart.
No.
That might be the gateway, the way in, the starting point, but you can't stay there. So like when I'm working with the phoenixes, I start in my heart, but it then flows through everything. And I'll get tingles in, I'm very much, I work with the feelings in my fingers, like I'll get energy signatures of things. So I have a physical reaction to working with phoenixes.
Yeah.
I'll feel it deep down in my soul. Like last night, I was doing some really deep sound vocalizations. Now that was very much belly, soul, navel type chakra type stuff. And I could feel it in my aura, which I think of typically spirit. So again, it's that thing of just because we use a single word doesn't mean that we don't influence or impact or involve everything else.
No, this is true. So would that make so just sort of thinking out loud here. Oh, sorry, I just kicked the dog. Sorry, darling. So our spirit could be like our energy, and our soul could be our blueprint.
Yeah, I think that could work.
And it's like, but actually, you've got to you've actually got to have both. You can't have one without the other.
No, exactly. It might even be, and this is just percolating through now. It could even be the soul is the eternal, and the spirit is the present life.
Yeah.
So
it's just massive. It's just huge, isn't it?
It is. And I sit there and I'm like, and what I love most about all of this is digging deep into the curiosity of it all. And I think I've had more enlightenment and more progression and more of a capability of being able to step into my own power, where I focus my energy and my attention on asking the questions rather than focusing on what the answer needs to be.
Always. And the dragons taught me that, and that shadow work, that's teachers. It's that curiosity.
Yeah.
And you knew, and when you have that no attachment curiosity, very set of answers.
Yeah.
What comes in actually has blown my mind over the years of things they've given me.
Yeah.
And you've experienced this with the Phoenix, as I know.
Yeah.
You just go, where did that?
Yeah.
It just leaves you, leaves you speechless. So now, obviously I follow you on Facebook, and you're on Instagram as well, aren't you?
I'm just starting. Yeah. So watch your space.
And obviously, I got a preview of your beautiful website.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're just starting to take the phoenixes out into the world, aren't you?
I am. They're ready.
So what are you up to with them?
So,
Or what are they up to with you, shall I say?
Exactly. They are ultimately their purpose, as they've told it to me, is they want to foster connection, and create safe spaces in which to do that.
Cool.
So my job and what I'm now starting to do is I want to create those safe spaces in the physical world so that people are able to let go because they don't have to worry about it, what's going on around them, to do the work and connect with themselves, connect with each other, connect with spirit, connect with universe, with the energies of the phoenixes. So that's that in a nutshell is what
So
I'm starting to do.
fabulous. So because you're running meditation groups, aren't you, with the phoenixes? So which is what that is, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is the thing. I'm very, and again, this comes very much from my experience in the corporate world as a psychologist, as a and within that, as a trainer, as a coach, as a mentor, as someone who works in the commercial world of designing technological systems and thinking about systems and all this, that sort of stuff. My job, my calling is to give people options so that they never feel as though they are being forced into a mold that doesn't fit their energy.
Oh, I like that. That's really nice.
And this is why I've got meditation. So I've got monthly in-person meditation classes starting this month. So in 13th of February. They are at the Natural Wellbeing Centre in Romsey.
In Hampshire?
In Hampshire.
In the UK, that is.
Because I do want to eventually, and the phoenixes are like, again, this is global, this is not, it's at all levels. So I've got in-person meditation classes starting, online meditation classes. The meditation, each of the phoenixes have downloaded a meditation, so those will be shortly available for people to purchase.
Well, all 32 or whatever it is.
32, yeah. They've all got a message. They've all got guidance. They've all got space for you to gain insight, to think, to be curious, to just have that peace of being able to let go of the noise of the outside world and just give yourself a little bit of a treat of a bit of me time, just to go inwards. So there's all of that. I've got blogs coming. And actually, the big thing that I'm really, really looking forward to doing is setting up retreats. Holistic retreats, 2-3 days at luxury locations in the UK and then eventually abroad, where we just come together as communities, like-minded people, where we can just spend a couple of days in the beautiful natural world in the lap of luxury, because I must admit I'm not a camper, I'm a hotel stayer.
Yes.
And you can just explore in a safe, accepting, warming way.
Oh,
So
that's like luxury hot chocolate to me. That just makes me feel like a luxury hot chocolate.
If you really want, if you're at that point, if you've got to those crossroads and you're genuinely going, I have no idea where I want to go, or even if you've got an idea of where you want to go and you're just like, but I don't have the time to really focus on it, that's what these retreats will give you.
Amazing.
There will be an opportunity for you to come and sit and work with the phoenixes. They're eager, they're keen, they're ready. They're like, you know what? The collective conscious has raised to a level where people are now ready for us. It's hard work. Believe you me, I have been kicked up the bum a lot in the last couple of years to get me to where I actually need to be. Caroline, you know that my journey over the last couple of years has been interesting, and certainly the last 6 months have been revelationary. But that's what I now want to give back. I want to give back to people that opportunity so that we have that sense of our own purpose, We have that sense of we're not alone, that
Mm.
connectivity, and that we can then move forwards through this life journey into the next life journey, and wherever, that we learn the soul lessons. We heal our witch wounds. You know, this is big, powerful stuff.
And actually, in 2024 is the year to do it, isn't it? We're in the year of the wood dragon. It's an 8th year. To me, like last year was like walking through bloody treacle, like walking through waist-high mud. It's frigging awful. Well, it wasn't awful, but it was not without its challenges last year for, I think, for all of us.
No.
And this year, it literally, that clock turned midnight on the 31st of December. And maybe it's just my imagination, but the whole energy shifted.
Yeah. I think it felt for me as though last year was hard in that it felt quite dark. Like there was a lot of shadow work.
Heavy, wasn't it?
You were heavy. It was heavy. It was sluggish. It was crying a lot of energy. Like there were some days when I'd be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't, you know, I'm just going to go and take to my bed for, you know, I was in bed like at 7 o'clock in the evening because I was like, nope, that's it. I'm tapped out. But I think we all collectively had to go through that in order to recognize that it's that the darkest hours before the dawn. Last year was the dark. This year is the dawn.
Yeah.
That, you know, what better way of saying that? Imulk, yesterday, the returning of the sun. Yeah. We are stepping into the fire period, the sun, the energy, and this is again where the phoenixes come in, because let's face it, the phoenixes are ultimately at the base of it fire creatures. They are very solar energy based.
Yeah, of course.
And I think this is it. This is the year where people will be energized to make that shift.
Agreed. So one final question before we wrap this up. Now, I read someone, I think I've run this past you, and I think I've got it the right way round. I didn't think dragons ever died. I thought dragons went on for eternity. Now, I read someone, I think it may have been on Dragon Thunder, of Dragon Thunder group, that somebody put that dragons turn into phoenixes upon their death. Is that right? What's your feeling on that?
Yes.
Okay.
So the way, as soon as when you said that to me, it clicked. A little light bulb, light switch, whatever you want to call it, clicked in my brain. And I went back and spoke to the phoenixes about it, and I spoke to my dragons about it, and they were like, it's about choice. So not every dragon. So when a dragon dies, or I hate the word dies, decides to move on to its next incarnation, it has a choice. And it can be reincarnated as a phoenix. So this is where the idea of rebirth, reincarnation, rising from the ashes comes from. Because when a dragon chooses that path, the image that came to me was they crumble into ashes, but from it rises a phoenix egg. And then the phoenix egg gets birthed into the phoenix. Right. Hence the myth that we all know.
Yeah.
However, not all dragons will choose that path. They may choose other paths. Not all phoenixes are dragonborn.
That makes sense. And not all dragons die.
No, exactly. So again, for me, what it really brought home to me was the power of choice.
Yes, of course.
And actually, it was like, oh, part of the majesticness of dragon and of phoenix is because they fundamentally, at their very core, understand that it is their choice. they take complete and utter ownership of their journey.
Oh, of course they do. And that is their lesson to us. Oh,
And I will say right now, I am still learning that lesson. I sometimes
me
kick and
too.
scream against it and stuff like this. But again, this is why acceptance came. So this is how I met acceptance. When we had that, I was like, and he said, it's about acceptance. It's about recognizing that you have a choice. And even if you don't make a choice, you procrastinate, you're still making a choice.
Ah,
There is power, singular power. There is, very little else is more powerful than the power of choice.
absolutely.
And what I think is also interesting that came through to me, that I now really do live my life by massively, is it's okay to choose the I don't know. And I think this is where a lot of dragon and phoenixes, they will sit there, and again, it's about creating that space, that out of time, out of place, but still within energy, within spirit, of going, I have no clue. And I might need to wait for a while. So it might be that dragon passes on and just exists in the ether as energy, free energy in the universe, but doesn't actually manifest as a phoenix until it has made that choice.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So that's my thing.
And I think you might be right. And we have the same thing, can't we? Because we can go, I have no idea. I don't know what and we've been kicking around something at home actually. And we were going, shall we? And I said to my husband, well, actually, if we're in the we don't know, then we do nothing.
Yeah. And it's one of the hardest things, because if you think about it, we are all taught, crack on, get on with it, make your choice, push for it, fake it till you make it if you don't know.
Yeah.
And it drains. It's okay.
Yeah.
Our gut instinct, our gut is exactly the same age as our brain and our heart. Our gut tells us, yes, good idea. It will no. The third message our gut tells us is, we don't know, we need more information. We have been taught to ignore that third response. What I have learned working with dragons, and the phoenixes particularly, is it's really important to start listening to the I don't know again, and giving yourself time and space to really understand from all points, mind, heart, body, spirit, soul, energy, bring it all together. Because if it's out of kilter, you can't guarantee what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing.
Yeah, and you can't make an informed decision, can you?
No. And this is really interesting, because this is why, like I said, there are 3 clans. So the three odysseys, the crystalline phoenixes, I can see why I then met them first, because they are the ones that are closest associated with physical meditation, that kind of stuff. You then have the shadow phoenixes. Now they're the opposite. So they're the dark, work through it, shadow work type stuff. The third odyssey are the transformation phoenixes. They're the ones that you start working with when you get to the point you are good with I don't know. I did not meet them until I had fully embraced the idea of being curious and giving myself time and space and the energy to really truly understand what would help me be my authentic self, to be wholehearted.
Wow. And it's funny how they step, isn't it? So could anybody work with phoenixes?
Anybody can work with phoenixes. They are ready and ready. What I would say is that because the lessons that they bring are powerful, you have to be mentally, physically, emotionally ready for it. So this is not for beginners who are just dipping their toes into spiritual practice. I would say that you would need to be comfortable with spiritual practice, you know,
Yeah.
be comfortable with asking yourself difficult questions, you know, being prepared to hear some tough stuff and ask yourself tough questions.
Mm.
But if you're prepared to do that, the benefit that you reap from their support, their guidance, their lifting you up to burn away the stuff that serves you no purpose so that you can be reborn into who you truly are designed to be.
That
In
sounds
this
awesome.
Go for it.
Amazing. So how can people find you? So find your Facebook, Instagram, website. So what is your, apart from being Jocelyn Clark, what is your sort of your company business name? How can they find you?
My company business name is Phoenixes Consulting.
Yeah.
But my website is phoenixmage.co.uk.
Yeah.
I am also, Facebook is Jocelyn the Phoenix Mage. My email is jocelyn@phoenixmage.co.uk. So feel free.
Mage. They'll
Phoenix
find
Mage. Yeah, if you Google it, then it should come up. But for me, I'm really keen to start collaborating, finding communities and bringing people together in whatever way that looks like, because that's what the Phoenix is there for.
So what we will do is we'll put links below on YouTube
I love
to everything that you've got and a little bio about you and stuff. So Joss, thank you so much for joining me. As always, I love chatting to you and hearing about the Phoenixes, because it's not an energy I work with, although they sort of dipped in. Again, I was talking to somebody this morning, you know, Phoenix, something's, you know, if I don't deal with it there and then, they bugger off and go somewhere else. And the Phoenixes say, well, Joss will do it. You're going to ignore us. And off they came to you. I love it.
No, I love it. And you know, if anybody is intrigued or think that they have a connection but they're not sure, then come and have a chat. They are not mine, I am not theirs. You know, it's here for everyone.
Amazing. Do you do one-to-ones with people with their Phoenixes?
Yes. Yep. So coaching, counseling, mentorship, personal development, the Phoenixes will come in, as well as the more traditional approaches as well that I can give as a psychologist. So yeah, it's the whole package. We talk about everything. Reiki as well. So obviously, being a Dragon Master Reiki practitioner, there is no stone unturned if you want to come and have a chat.
Amazing. That was a great weekend. Josh and I did our Dragon Master Reiki together, didn't we? That was an amazing weekend. Anyway, I shall love you and leave you, darling. Thank you so much for joining me. And
no worries.
I will see you soon.